On this week's live stream, Wordle lovers and haters rejoice! We've just released a new cheater app for the world's most popular word game. Plus, the AI rebellion has begun. We're premiering the trailer for the Chromeware crew's amazing new AMV project. And Mr. T helps craft tall buildings in his latest extreme makeover project. All this and more coming right up on the Chromeware live stream. Good morning, Internet. It's Mr. Tomac back again. I seem to have lost my little title. I don't know where it is. That's so sad. So yeah, welcome. I'll put that back in a little bit. So yeah, I've had a very busy week with my co-op students. We have been working like crazy on our AMV project. So we're waiting for our member, Music Man Joe, to come up with our soundtrack, which is of course a cover of the 1983 disco hit Freakadroid. So we're going to be for this week we're just going to be using the original song, but we're actually going to be substituting our own music in there very soon. So we are in a couple of minutes going to be unveiling our newest promo project related to this AMV. It's a trailer, and we're very excited about it. While we're making this, we're kind of learning some of the techniques that we're going to roll out in our actual project that's coming up. So we're very, very excited about kind of working through the little bits and pieces of how we're going to put this all together. You guys will remember I have 7 co-op students, all from high schools all over the Ottawa area here, and they're all helping me put this project together, and we're doing some really amazing work. There's some great artists in there and some great coders as well, and working together as a team, we're going to put together something that is going to knock Scratch on its head, I think. We're very excited by the way this is going to be received by the Scratch community. So that trailer is coming right up. Firstly, though, I wanted to unveil my brand new Wordle project. And so you've already seen my Wordle game, which I now have running. The bugs are finally out of it. But that inspired me to make a cheater program, and we're going to talk about that today as well. Welcome first to Deck, who's joining me in the Chromeworks Studios studio audience here on Discord. Hi, Deck.
Hi.
What's going on with you today, sir?
I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, and is spring finally here in London, England?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good to hear, sir. All right. Well, lots of people looking today and shouting out on YouTube as well. I want to say hi to Werner Preisel, who is... or it's actually it's Preisel, sorry. Werner Preisel, who's from Deutschland, from Germany. And he's joining us today, I believe, for the first time. I don't think I've seen your name there. So welcome to Werner. Welcome also to Liam Shaw, who's been looking at us for a couple of weeks now. And I just found out, chatting with him, that he is only 6 years old. I cannot believe that. I went and had a look at some of his projects, and I'm just super impressed with his work. So here is Liam's Scratch page. He goes by the name of LolMe93, and he says that he loves Scratch. I'm so sorry, some of my games are trash, but I still love Scratch. Well, we don't think your games are trash, Liam. For a 6-year-old, I think you're doing pretty great. He shared a whole bunch of projects here. Look at this. He's very, very prolific for a kid his age. I just wanted to show you a typical project that he's made. Here is a project called Pet Sim. And it's a very simple thing. You've got a dog who has hunger and thirst issues. And every time he gets hungry or thirsty, you can tell him to eat or drink. So let's click on the apple here. And it goes and has a little bite of the apple or the water here. There we go. a nice, simple little project, but nicely done, Liam. So keep on scratching, keep watching our tutorials, and I'm sure you'll learn how to do some amazing stuff. I don't know if you've seen our cat and mouse tutorial series yet, Liam, but that is a great little introduction for kids your age to how to get started in Scratch. And if you look that up on YouTube, I bet you will find some really, really awesome hints for how to get started in Scratch and do some more. Werner here says he's 10 years old. Can you tell us, Werner, what city you're from? I've been to Germany a couple of times, and I'm just kind of curious where you're from. All right, anyone else joining us? Well, of course, we've got Top Secret Asian, Andy, my co-op student, joining me in the YouTube. He's going to be moderating today. And I think that's it for now. If you're lurking in the chat, Liam says he's seen Cat and Mouse. Excellent. He's from Gotha, Germany. Okay, wow. All right, well, that's great to hear. All right, if you're lurking in the chat, please do say hello, guys. Let's get to the main event here. Number one, I wanted to show you my new Wordle project. So here is Wordle Solver, my latest new Wordle cheat application. And I'm very happy with it. I've been working hard on this. Let me just give you a little demo here. I'll turn the music off, because that's not very suitable. So the idea is you put in whatever information you have about your Wordle puzzle. So for example, if you know your puzzle starts with the letter T, and we'll make that green by clicking this button, and maybe in this spot we had a letter N, and we know for sure that there's no P, and no L, and no T, and maybe no O or U in my puzzle as well. And once you get all the information down here, you click on the Solve button. And what it does, there are no words in the English language that don't have that. Now I've got a second database here that has more words in it. This is the list of common words. Let's look at all words and try that again. No, still 0 words with this combination. Wow. All right. Let's take some of the vowels out of here, and I'm sure we'll find some stuff here. So now I'm going to click Solve. It seems like every time I start this off, I run into trouble. So I think that when I move this over to the ChromeWorks database today, the database file didn't move with it. I did an import of the file, and so the database is empty, and that's what's going on here. Okay, I'm going to show you this stuff during the break here. I have a short video to play a little bit later, and I'm going to premiere this in a second, guys. So I just moved this over from my test account to my publication account. Werner's name is actually... Okay, never mind. Hey Adam, nice to see you again. So Adam's on here again. Welcome to Adam. So yeah, so when I imported this to my main account, this is something that tripped me up last time when I was doing my Wordle project as well. When you import a file by going File, Load from your computer, the contents of your list don't come across apparently. That's what's happening. So my list here of my master word list appears to be empty. I'm going to have to re-import it here. You know what? I can do that right now, actually. So let's go import, and we'll go back to my Wordle file here. I'm going to show you how I do this. So this is how you get big, long spreadsheets that are saved in CSV format, loaded up into Scratch. So here's my Wordle words list. There we go. And now we filled it up. There's 12,000 words here. Actually, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for my 5-letter word list. That has stuff in it. Okay, so there's still something going on with my program here, and I'll give you guys a look at it in just a minute. Let's move on to the AMV project, which I'm very excited about this week. So what have we been doing this week? Firstly, the first thing we did was we sat down and made a poster. So this is the promotional poster that we're going to be using for Freakadroid, our animated music video that's coming out soon. You can see that the Photoshop document, I grabbed Tankbot, our mascot, who's the star of this movie, and animated him to be in kind of a typical rock pose, and then I kind of blinged him up with a whole bunch of stuff. And you can see that each one of these little pieces of addition here, every little element here is actually a different layer in a Photoshop program, in Photoshop here. So for example, if I go look at his body here, I can hide his glasses and show his visor underneath. I can go to his hands here, and you can see that how I've made the fingers hold on to the microphone here. I can take the microphone and make it disappear or reappear. Each one of these things is a different layer that we've superimposed in Photoshop, and it turns out that there's probably 30 different layers in this project to get it all going. So we rendered it all out to an image and used it as the thumbnail for our Scratch project. Now, you guys remember that we've been working on a whole bunch. Let me get the thumbnail going here. No, it doesn't want to show what's happening here. There we go. All right, so here's the thumbnail for our project. You guys will remember we've been working on backgrounds for our music video for the last little while. We've got a whole bunch of dystopian backgrounds that we've been drawing in all kinds of different formats. Some of it's been tracing over images, some have been drawing stuff from pictures, and some of it's been just freehand drawing. And we've come up with a bunch of backgrounds. Last week we were building some dance moves for our characters, and now we're starting to bring it all together. And we thought that once we had a little bit of animation that we could create a little trailer. So here, guys, is the official premiere of our Freakadroid trailer, which is now available on YouTube. Sorry, on Scratch, and I will be releasing it on YouTube later on. Okay, let's do that right now.
Freakazoids, robots, please report to the dance floor. Z-O-I-D-S, Freakazoid, Z-O-I-D-S, Z-O-I-D-S, baby.
What did you guys think of that? I thought that was really cool. Anyway, so that is our trailer. I'm going to send you guys a link in the chat in case anyone wants to have a look at this. So this has just been released today, and we're very excited about it. I'll paste that into the chat here. And Dex says it's very nice. He's enjoying it. So this was the product of maybe 10 to 12 hours worth of work. I mean, that was after we had all the backgrounds and stuff done. And we learned a lot about Scratch on the way. I wanted to show you guys a little bit more of what we have been looking at in the details of this project here. So inside the project here, one of the key things that we did for the timing, let's look at all these sprites here. Let me magnify this over here. So we've got a whole bunch of sprites here, and there was going to be a whole bunch more. We had a lot of projects that were done up in very complex layers that we were worried it was going to break Scratch if we a lot of the more complex AMV and short video projects that I've seen on Scratch, they tend to crash Scratch with memory issues and stuff like that, just because there's just too much going on. So a project like a single image like this Steamworks one here that let me hide this black screen. So this Steamworks image here, let me bring it to the front. So this particular image is made up of probably 100 different shapes, right? Some of them copied and pasted and duplicated. Plus every one of these robots is made up of about 12 other, maybe 12, 15 other shapes. They're all being animated independently. They're all sprites, and they're working kind of against each other. One of them's leaning right while the other one's leaning left. So to bring that all together would have been a huge project. So what I ended up doing was taking the complex Scratch images and looking at it frame by frame and just exporting the frames. So you can see here, instead of having a multi-layered image here with all kinds of pieces, these are all just bitmaps that I've brought into Scratch. And the way that I did that was by what I did actually was set up a little bit of helper code here that just went next frame when I press the space key. So I go looks, next costume, and do that when I hit the space button. Then I started off on frame 1 of my animation, and I just right clicked on it, save image as, and that will save your image as a PNG. And I just numbered it number 1. And then I hit the space bar, went to the next frame of animation, right clicked, saved it again, saved all the different frames out, and ended up with like 15 frames here. And when you play them all in succession here, let me just hold down my space key, you can see that we get this beautiful complex animation going without the trouble of having to render out all those frames with all the special effects and stuff in here. When they're flat images like this, they take up way less memory and they end up working a lot more efficiently inside Scratch. So that's the technique that that we used. That was the number 1 thing that we learned this week, I think, is how to crunch stuff and make it work more efficiently in Scratch. If you look at some of these images where we haven't done that, for example, the dark alley scene here, let me show that to you. Where did my dark alley go? Or this lab here is another good example. So this particular project, if we look into the bits and pieces of it, you can see if I ungroup it. So this is just taking a huge workload and putting it onto Scratch here, right? So we've got all kinds of different objects here. They're all made up of their own different bits and pieces. That's useful if you're trying to animate it. And what Yana, who was working with me this week, and I want to give a shout out here to Yana Jovanovic, who is my co-op student who's been stick handling this project for me. She did a big chunk of the work on this particular video today, and she designed this image as well. And you can see just how complex it is, all the different pieces that go into making it. So rather than sending this image out with all its different pieces that are going to clog up Scratch's memory, especially doing this over and over again, the faster way to run your program is to export this image from the game screen. It'll be exactly measured out then, 480 by 360 pixels, and you can bring a much lighter weight version of it into the project. Liam says he made a trailer for something called Incrediscratch. I'll have a look for it later and see if I can have a boo at it. I don't want to call it up right now though, Liam, because I haven't seen it yet. Maddox, welcome to Maddox. And Adam wants a link to the Wordle project. So here is my original Wordle game right here. And here's my Wordle Solver. There's something going on with it right now though, and it appears like it's not working properly. So, but I am gonna ship it over to you right now, and I will get it running as soon as I get a break here so I can look at this. I'm gonna be playing a video in a couple of minutes. All right, so back to my Freakadroid project here. Yeah, so that was one of the things that we learned is how to render images out as individual PNGs, and how with complex stuff like that, that can really speed things up. One of the other things we've been doing here that's a little more sophisticated is we have a bunch of scenes in this video, and we have them all be controlled by events. So if I broadcast an event, for example, like workshop time, that will trigger a whole bunch of these sprites to hide and trigger a whole bunch of them to show up. And this is the way that we get complex videos like this working. So when I click on this broadcast, for example, you can see that the video starts working, and ooh, I've got to hide this. So this isn't. So
Freakazoids. Rollbacks. Clean.
So everything's set up so that certain things are showing and certain things aren't, and then the right things are showing at the right time. So let me show you again what, let me show you the one called Dark Alley here. So as soon as I broadcast that, you can see it gets us into this scene where we got a couple of things happening. Can you see how we're zooming in as well? That's another kind of really cinematic thing that we were doing with this particular trailer here. Whoop. All right, so everything is kind of messed up here. So these projects aren't supposed to be running alone with the broadcast, but the broadcasts are the things that are triggering them. So you can see that certain things, so things are being hidden based on what was there before it, rather than based on everything here. So let's get that the one called Steamworks running here and see if that one works. Yeah, and so that one gets everyone dancing. So of course we've got tank bodies.
Freakazoids. Rollbacks.
Oh.
Please.
All right, so we got a bunch of overlapping stuff happening here. When you start clicking on random sprites inside any complex Scratch project like this, stuff is going to fall apart. The only real way to get it running is by clicking that green flag and getting it running the way that it's intended to run. Anyway, so yeah, setting up the timing using messaging blocks is another big thing that I learned about AMV projects this week. The other big thing is sound effects. So one of the things that we were having trouble with mixing the sound. If you listen to this opening scene here, there's actually music plus the sound of a porch swing, and there's a sound of the wind howling, and then eventually we get into the sound of a machinery in the background, and it's all very subtle. And when we mix it together, here we go. So listen. So the real challenge to that is how to mix different sounds, get them all working to different volumes and getting them to start and stop independently. If you put all your sounds in one sprite, that is not going to work. So the other lesson we learned this week is about using other objects to control our music. We've got a couple of sprites in here called controller that are setting the music for individual projects here. So here's the park swing, for example, being set at 70%, and the timing of it is different here. So if we tried to put all of these in one sprite, we would have to control all the volumes simultaneously, and then we wouldn't be able to start and stop our music and our sound effects independently. So we've tried to separate them out into different sprites, and in some cases we've created blank sprites just for the purposes of controlling sounds. So that's another thing we've been working on. All right, so this AMV is coming together quite nicely now. We've got most of the assets that we need, and in the next couple of weeks we're going to be putting together kind of an assembly line for making these projects. What we're going to be doing is writing a storyboard, and then we're going to start assigning different chunks of this to different volunteers, my co-op students, and if there's anyone else in the ChromeWorks community who wants to help, we can parcel some work out to them as well. So we're going to be assigning different jobs out for different kinds of animations that we still need. We might put out a little brief saying, I need a picture of Chromebot raising his hand above his head and shaking his fist, or something along those lines, for example. And we'll hand that off to someone. They'll send it back to me as a sprite file, and then we'll import it into here, and Yana, who's stick handling this project, will add that to the main movie. And just bit by bit, just by sending the work out to all kinds of other people and getting them to bring it back in again, we can end up building this gigantic project collaboratively so that everyone's working on something at once, yet we're all pulling together to make the same project. This is project-based learning, which is what the big golden grail of education is. If you want students to be interested in what they're doing, don't teach them stuff in isolation. Don't teach them how to animate something. Teach them how to animate something for a movie that they're making along with other people. And by collaborating together on giant projects, we share, give each other information, and end up learning a whole lot more than we would by struggling on this stuff individually. We can tap each other's resources and get smarter as we make stuff. So this is a real life example of project-based learning, and you are going to see that we're going to come up with some amazing results. Okay, I'm going to get my my Wordle game running, but in the meantime, I have an extreme makeover project I want to show you guys. So you guys will remember, maybe, those of you who've been around for a while, that Extreme Makeover is a regular segment where we take somebody else's project, a project made by a kid out there somewhere. This one was made by someone named JGSTU, who reports that she's from China, but she's not. She's from Hong Kong. She's actually updated that now. So she's in Hong Kong. And she's done some, just a very, very simple animation project here. And what I wanted to do is give you guys a little coding lesson based on how to take something really simple and torque it up a little bit with some extra action. So here right now is our little extreme makeover segment. For today's extreme makeover, we're going to take a super simple animation project, a flying Scratch, and we're going to give him superpowers that let him leap over tall buildings. Let's get right to it. This is JGSTU. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. And she is 11 years old. And she is a fan of Harry Potter and especially Hermione, and she's a Ravenclaw apparently. So welcome, JGSTU. I had a look at some of her projects. We found a very simple animation project here that I wanted to show you guys today. It's simply Scratch flying as a kind of superhero figure above a building here, and I thought I'd show you guys how to really quickly add a little bit of animation to this to give it a little bit more oomph. So there's actually no code at all in the existing project, except for building 2 here, which is just scrolling over and over again. So I'm going to remix this today, as we always do on Extreme Makeover Scratch Edition, and I'm going to add some extra code to it to make Scratch jump up in the air, leap over the buildings, fly for a little bit, and then land again. And we're going to do it in such a way so that he's always jumping over these buildings, so that his takeoffs and his landings are timed to match this building. Let's get right to it. So if we want Scratch jumping over this building, we're going to have to slow things down a little bit just to give him time to get off the ground and then land again. So let's take the speed of this building. Right now we're scrolling at a speed of -10, which is moving it left across the screen 10 pixels per frame, and it's happening 50 times in a loop here. So let's slow this down to a speed of maybe -4. There we go. Now, because we're running in a loop here, of course, it's stopping after it goes 4 times 50, which is -200 pixels. So to get it all the way across the screen, we have to get it across 480 pixels, which is the width of the screen. So the power of math tells us that we can do this 120 times, and that will take us all the way over the edge. In practice, though, we're actually able to go a little bit off the edge of the screen, so let's bump that number up to maybe 130 and see what that looks like. Yeah, that's coming off the screen very nicely now. All right, let's jump over to the cat flying sprite where we need to get this fella in action. We'll start with the green flag, and we want him to not be in this costume. We're going to start him off in the bottom left so that he can start his jump, and we won't want him dressed like this. Let's put him into cat flying B, which is kind of the leaping position here for our cat. And from there, We also want to lock in that starting position where we're going to go back to, depending on what stage of the program we're in. So as soon as I drag this out here, my program has stopped. It's actually recording the actual location of my cat now. So I'm just going to lock that in now. And now whenever I restart the program, he's going to bounce back to that spot again. All right, we're going to do everything else pretty much in a forever loop here. So let's grab a forever loop. And inside there, the first thing we want to do is we're going to use a glide command to jump up to the starting position here. So let's just grab our cat. Now that we've locked in the start position, let's lock in the position he's going to jump to, which is going to be somewhere up near the top of the screen here and somewhere close to the middle, just like that probably. Okay, we're going to glide to that spot. So let's go to our motion commands and grab a glide to. Now again, it's remembered the new position of our guy. So when we restart the program and pop this guy down here, he's going to know to go to the middle of the screen where we've just programmed him to go. All right, I want that a little faster, so I'm going to go 0.5 seconds for his fly time. And now you can see he's flying. Once he gets there, we can put him back into his flying costume. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go to our looks commands here and switch costume back to cat flying A. And there he goes. Now he looks like he's flying. Okay, so we're going to get him while he's in the air here to do a little kind of swaying up and down as if he's kind of riding on the currents of the wind, just like Superman while he's flying here. So to make that look realistic, we're going to want to add a little bit of randomness to his up-down motion. So, and we're going to want it done for a fixed amount of time. Now, we don't know exactly how long it's going to take here. We've messed around with the speed of the scrolling here. So rather than trying to time it, we're going to set it up so that he continues bouncing up and down here and then starts his landing when this building reaches a certain X coordinate. So we're going to do that with the help of this command here that's called the reporter block. It's a really useful little block that gives you information about the stage and its attributes, or about any sprite on the board and its attributes. I'm in the wrong sprite right now. So now that we're inside the cat flying, you'll see that buildings 2 is one of the options here. And we can find the X position and a whole bunch of other information about buildings 2 from here. If I click on it, you'll see it's going to give me its current X coordinate, which is -171. All right, so we're going to try and build an if statement here, or a conditional statement here, that we're going to repeat until. So I want to repeat until my X position reaches a certain place. Let's call it 150 or so. So somewhere around, if we go to our building here, we'll put in -150. Yeah, and so when the building gets to around here, that's where we'll want to drop back down to the ground again. We might want to tweak that a little bit based on the numbers, but let's start with that number. So let's build a repeat until command here that repeats until the X position of building 2 is less than -180. Inside that repeat until, we're going to want to change his Y position. So let's use a glide command again. I don't often use glide commands, but in this case, since we're just kind of doing kind of a storytelling exercise, it seems like an appropriate thing to do rather than changing his Y coordinate manually, which is going to be a little more choppy. So let's do a nice smooth glide condition here, and we're going to do it fairly quickly. I'm going to put a timing here of 0.2 seconds. And so it's just going to come around this loop over and over again, changing every 0.2 seconds. Now the X position is going to stay fixed. We don't actually want him moving left and right here. So we're going to set his X position to his current position, which is 10. Now for the Y position here, we're going to want him to start at this 116, which is where he currently is, but be able to float up or down a little bit at a time based on a random factor. So we're going to grab a random number here, pick random. I'm going to say that we're going to go up or down by 5 pixels at a time. So I'm going to go from -5 to +5 here. in terms of his ability to move up and down every time we go around this loop here. But the problem is we can't plunk that into here, or he's actually going to go to -5 or +5. So we actually want to go to his current Y position plus -5 to 5. So let's go grab a blue block here that says its current Y position, and we use some math to add that random factor into the equation. So Y position plus a random number, and that will get us gliding to someplace just a little bit offset from our current position. So let's go plunk that in, and let's give her a little run through here. We'll click the green flag. He flies. Beautiful. So once we're done our jump, we're going to get back into our original costume, which for landing, which is cat flying B here. And you can see that that is triggered as soon as that building gets a little too far over to the left. He switches costume, and there you go. And now we just need to make him land. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to use another glide command to make him land here. So let's go glide for 0.5 seconds, and we're going to bring him right back to his starting position, which is -181, -129. Let's have a look at that now. He flies and then passes the building, and there you go. Now, he's kind of overlapping with the building a little bit, so let's adjust this so that the building goes a little further to the left before he lands. I'm going to change this -150 number to maybe -180. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. So now he's moving next to the building. Let's make it just a little bit further, -190. So I wanted to land next to the building instead of on top of it. There we go. That's looking pretty good now. So now that Scratch Cat has landed, he's going to be kind of sliding along the ground here unless we take off right away. So I actually want him to run for a few steps before taking off in time for the next building. So let's go ahead and grab some extra sprites. Right now our only costumes are Cat flying A and B, which are the two positions for flying. I'd like to get some extra costumes in here. We can do that by loading up the default Scratch costume, which is called Cat, of course. And in there we've got two different costumes that show him running. So that's exactly what we're looking for here. I'm going to grab this costume and drag it over to Cat flying until it wiggles basically, and then I'll know that it's copying over. I'm going to do that with the second costume as well. And if we go back to our Cat flying sprite, let's delete this other one, which we don't need anymore. And if we go over to our Cat flying now, we have 4 costumes. We have Cat A and B, which are great for running, of course. So let's get a little loop going here where we're running. We'll go repeat maybe 5 times. And in there, we're just going to have them flip between those 2 costumes. So let's go switch costume to Cat A. And then we'll do a little delay. Perhaps 0.2 seconds, which is usually a good number for animations. I'm going to duplicate these 2 blocks, and then we'll switch to Cat B when he lands here. Okay, let's give that another try and see what that looks like. And Scratch lands and then starts running, and perfect. And so now we can have him take off. He's actually coming around the loop and doing that, but he's smashing into that building. We've got to slow him down a little bit, and this is where the timing's a little bit tricky. So what we're going to do is make him go around this loop not as many times. So let's try experimenting with some different numbers here. Let's try 4. And we have to wait for him to take off again. So he lands, runs a little bit, takes off. And that's still a little bit too far. He's overlapping with that building. We want him to jump before the building. So let's change that repeat to 3. And there we go. He leaps right over the building and then lands. And it looks like we're in a perfect loop here where he's just doing that exactly the same way for every iteration. Beautiful. Now that we're flying properly, let's give our project a little oomph by adding a sound effect. So I'm over at freaksound.org, which is the website I use a lot for downloading sound effects. And in my search window here, I've just typed launch whoosh. It gives us a couple of different options, but the first one here called space torpedo sounds great. There's two different options here, a first sound and here's a second one. So one of these will work quite nicely. I've already downloaded it. You can just click on the link to down and then download. You're going to need to set up a free user account and supply them with an email address, but otherwise there's no strings attached. Meanwhile, back in Scratch, let's go and upload our sound. Click the upload button and I'll find it on my hard drive here. So there's our sound. We only want one of them. I think the second sound is sounding better than the first. So I'm just going to drag my cursor over the first half and hit the delete button. And let's rename this to Takeoff. There we go. And let's give a little preview here. Beautiful. Now, we're also going to want a landing sound as well. So I'm going to duplicate this sound by right-clicking on it and duplicating. And I'm going to call this second sound landing. And what we're going to do there is actually do the reverse of the takeoff sound, which I think sounds pretty cool. Let me show you. So I'm going to click on the reverse button here. Now, this is taking too long to rev up, though. So I'm going to delete the first roughly half of it. And let's give that a listen. That's still a little bit too loud. We might have to tweak it a bit. I'm going to take a little bit more off the top here. And let's see what that sounds like in our editor. So let's go back to our code here. So the takeoff sound is going to happen, of course, when we start gliding up into the sky here. So right at the beginning of our forever loop, we're going to start sound, take off, and our landing comes when we end up gliding down to the ground here again, which is right here when we switch to cat costume B. So let's go start sound, landing, and give it one last little look here. And then run, and then take off. Beautiful! And there you have it, a much smoother animation that has Scratch leaping tall buildings in a single bound like a true superhero. So hope you enjoyed that. It's not too complicated at all. I'd love to see you guys remix this project and see what you can do with it. There's lots more additions that can be made, new backgrounds, different sound effects, more buildings in the foreground. So go ahead and remix it, and if you come up with something cool, I'll show it on my next live stream. Thanks. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Tomek. So, I'm planning to do more of these extreme makeovers, by the way. So if you have a project that you're not super happy with, that you'd like to see me torque up and do some of my magic with, then please do share it with me. You can find me at Mr. Tomek on Scratch. And I'm always happy to look at your projects if you reach out to me. So I got my Wordle program working. I don't think that it was broken after all. Maybe I just fed in some bad data to it anyway, but let me show you. So here's my Wordle Solver project again, as I said, and it seems to be working fine. So I can't even tell you what was going on there before. Let's mute the music here. So again, let's enter some letters here. I'll show you simply. So let's start off with something really easy. So I want to just rule out all the words that start with the letter P. So I'm going to click on the first bubble here, select the letter P, and if I click solve, it'll come up with a list of, so these are all the words in the English language that don't, or that have the letter P somewhere in the word except in the first spot here. So if I filter this with a green now and then click solve, now I get fewer solutions. So these are only words that have P in the first spot. So yellow and green are kind of opposite in the way that we code them, right? Because yellow is words that exist inside the winning word but aren't in this particular spot. So we had to winnow away words that didn't have the letter P in them. And in this case, we made words that did have the letter P in it. So let me show you some other examples here. Let's go back and hide this list here. So I've also got a grid here for entering gray letters, and these are letters that don't exist. And the example I was using is just taking a whole bunch of vowels and getting rid of them. So let's get rid of everything except for words that have only the letter A in it. So now let's go and solve it. And we get 13 words here. And these are all words, oh, and the I's as well. So these are words that have only an A or an I in it. Let's go add the I to the list here as well. And I can't. Let's hide this list here. All right, so now we should get a much smaller list of words that only have the letter A, and that's the only vowel in it. And there's like 5 words there. So let's have a look at that. So words like carbs, crabs, drabs, and cabal. All right, so I do have a different database here. So I've set this up to work with 2 different databases, a database of common words and a database of all the words that are available in the Wordle database. So that's 12,000 words. The problem with using the 12,000 word database is if you give it just a little bit of information, it often gets, there's just too many suggestions that come back with 200 hits, and you have to go start sorting through a huge list of words that mostly aren't that important. Like if you look at the giant database of words that are being used by Wordle here, some of them are just wacky. Words like ahead and abaka and a boom. Like these are words that technically exist, but nobody would ever use them, and they would never be used in an actual Wordle game. So I've tried to filter down that list. And so I try to filter down that list and just use common words. But if you do want to try out using the entire database, you can just flip over it by just clicking on this button here. And you can see if I do the same search. So this search here yielded 5 results. And if I switch the database over to the other one, you can see now that now I have 55 words, right, including a whole bunch of those words that we don't really care about, like abaka, for example. If anyone knows what an abaka is, please share. So I wanted to give you guys a practical example of how useful this project is when you're playing a real Wordle game. So I actually have my Wordle game up here now. This is Chromeworks Wordle, which I unveiled a couple of weeks ago. And you can see here we've got a puzzle going. I'm just going to go with one of my favorite starter words, which is crane, C-R-A-N. Whoop. What's going on here? Now again, my program's not working. What the heck? What the heck? I keep having these things working and then they suddenly stop working. Wow. This is so embarrassing. So I keep testing my program out and it works beautifully, and then when I put it on the live stream it breaks. Okay, let's get today's actual Wordle game. Spoiler alert, if you have not done Wordle today, I'm about to give you guys the answer. So let's try my word again, crane, C-R-A-N-E. We'll enter it. So I've got an R that's yellow in the second place. So let's go ahead and feed all this information in here and see what the program says. So let's go back to Wordle Solver here. So we'll put an R in the second place. We'll make it green. And we'll put an A in this spot and make it yellow. And we also have some letters that are gray, right? So C, N, and E. So let's go ahead and feed that information here. C, N, and E. There we go. So now we click the solve button. 15 possible solutions found. So we're down to a much smaller list here, including some words. I wonder which one it is here. Okay, so now we can try a different word. Maybe one of the words that we think is, I'm going to try the other database out here and see what it gives me. Let's go solve. So this found 57 words. Okay, so let's try a word like trial. Let me try that one out next. So I'm going to add my list. I'm going to, let's go back to my Wordle game here. And I'll type in the word trial, T-R-I-A-L, and we'll see how we did. All right, so we've got 4 of the letters now, and they're all yellow. Of course, the A was in the wrong place, right? I did that wrong from the start. So let's try. T is yellow. R. So R is yellow. We're going to leave the A. No, wait, actually we have to do this. So I'll go I, A, and we have some other words that we can. We've got an L that we can add to this list of letters that we don't have. So let's go ahead and add that. Now let's try again and we'll solve it. 13 possible solutions found. So we'll look through, we're still in the big database here. Ratio, stare. So ratio or stare are our only choices now. The rest of them aren't really words. Let's see what would happen if we use the regular database here. Let's go solve. Oh, and the word stare isn't in that short list there. Isn't that weird? Okay, I'm going to try stare anyway, and let's see how it works. So it seems like the bigger database is the way to go here. So we'll go S-T-A-I-R. And there you go. And so we solved Wordle in 3 tries today using AI to help us out. So that's an example of how my program works. Liam said try stare. Liam said to try a boom earlier. Anyway, so I think this is a handy little program. The list, the shorter database list I have here seems to be missing some of the keywords. So I'm going to try and update it over the next couple of days and see if I can get a bigger list. That other list, though, is an actual official list of Wordle words that's been pulled out of right out of the software of Wordle. So that database has been pulled out. So if you don't see the word you're interested in on the first try, then you can always reassess it, as I said, by going in and clicking the all words database and trying again, and that will give you some more choices as well. All right, so I'm very proud of this program. I think it's working really cool. So we've got some suggestions here. Try koala. It's a little late for that, Adam. I'm already done my demo here. So check out this program on your own. I think it's quite handy. And as I say in the tutorial, I'm going to be releasing a tutorial probably tomorrow at some point on how to make this project. And it's going to explain it in a lot of detail. So the key is really just taking input from your clicks and sending it off into the database, compiling it all into a gigantic string here, and then looking at your database list. So I've got a bunch of custom blocks in the code here that that you can see, and every one of these custom blocks is basically designed the same way. I've compiled a list of what the letters are that we've chosen here, and then it goes through the list here and compares what's on the list to every letter in the English language. So for example, remove words that don't match yellow. So if I have yellow in my first spot here, it's going to get rid of every word in the English language that doesn't have an S in this spot, this spot, this spot, and this spot. And then another one here, remove words that match with yellow, and that's going to remove words that don't, that have an S in this spot. I'm getting confused here about what I've done with my code. The green ones are obviously more obvious in the case of a green letter like S here, it's going to go through the whole database, 12,000 words, and look at each word and say, does it start with an S? No. Does it start with an S? No. And delete every word that doesn't have the letter S. And so if I go in here and put an A, green, for example, as I said, you'll end up generating a list of words that doesn't have any A's in it. And you can see there's 240 words in the list here. That do start with A, so that start with the letter A. And yeah, that's I'm getting a little frazzled by my own program now. Anyway, so this does work according to Wordle rules, even if I'm not explaining it properly, guys. I'm very happy with this program, and I'd love to have you guys have a look at it. Anyway, that's all the content I have for today. It's getting close to 11 o'clock. So, welcome to Grayson, who's with us this week. Grayson just finished working on a really awesome project, and I'm sorry I can't show it for you. It got pulled off the Scratch server, but he did a really funny little slap a program that was related to the Oscars, and it was a little bit too violent for the Scratch community, so it got pulled. But congratulations to Grayson for really getting out there and trying something a little risky on Scratch, and he got a little bit of bad news about that when it got pulled from the Scratch server, but I just thought it was a very clever idea, and I'm sorry I can't show it to you. Okay, guys, so we are wrapping it up for today's stream. I will be back next week, and we're going to continue working. Hopefully, Music Man Joe will be back with the finished music for our AMV project, and I can't wait to show that to you guys. So once the music's unveiled, we're going to start choreographing, and we're just going to start pumping out scenes for our thing, and we will be right here every week to show you our progress. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for joining me, guys, and we will see you